This is so stupid. I'm gonna I'm gonna assume the volume's okay because the camera started with the help of Tober. With the help of Tober, we're doing a video, aren't we? You're such a boob. Yeah, you're such a boob. We're a loving family here. Well, thank you. Have I ever told you one of my pet peeves of all time? I mean, in the life experience, not just like a particular genre, but just things that happen to you in life that I just can't stand. You ever had a glass with ice in it and a drink, and you don't realize the ice kind of consolidates at the bottom and freezes together, and so when you drink your drink, you drink it, and all of a sudden you're like, is that the end of the drink? And then ice at the bottom of the glass just comes slamming down the glass and hits you in the face and goes all over your shirt and down your shirt, and you just feel like an idiot. It's one of my pet peeves of life. Another one is lizards in the house, which we've talked about before. There is nothing that will make you feel stupider on earth than trying to catch a lizard in your house. I guarantee it. Cats bring them in, and I have to catch them, and they don't kill them. They hardly even wound them. They usually don't wound them. They just catch them. I don't know how they do it. Very gentle jaws, like they're bringing it. Belle is the one who brings it in, and she's bringing it to her kittens in her brain. But of course, there's just me and Tober. So she brings it in, she'll put it down, it'll go scrambling, and then I have to catch it. Oh, God, it's stupid. I mean, you try to catch them, but you don't want to hurt them, so you're not grabbing them hard, so it's that they get through your fingers, and then they go under tables or they go under chairs. It's just, my God, it's stupid. All right, folks, it's been a while. Kind of a rough beginning to this video, but what's new? So what's the topic for today? A lot of people have, oh shit, just a second. I had to make an adjustment. If I don't, I get complaints about it. It has to do with background ambient noise. I remembered, oops, turn that off. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to talk about 9 Mile Hole because people have contacted me, a lot of people, saying, you found it. Not that I found it, but you were close. One person said you were a 9-iron away from it, and all this. And they're going away, they're going from the fact that I did a video called Did I Find the Blaze, where I was at 9 Mile Hole and I found Fenn Rock, and which is what people call it now. And I think I pretty much understand where that's leading, and I think I have some other ideas kind of about even how the poem fits into 9 Mile Hole, but that's not for today. That'll be for another video. But it was, I've had some personal searcher friends that have contacted me and said, you don't believe it's in Yellowstone and all that Capro stuff and all that, right? And I go, well, I don't know about the Capro stuff. I don't know about the Rudy stuff where he found the log, and then he kind of superimposed the picture of the log on top of the picture of the log and said, see, it matches. And I thought, well, that just looks like you just superimposed the same picture. I don't know. I'm not going to go there with that because I don't know. But I don't really care so much. I mean, I've said this before, but I do have ideas about the 9 Mile Hole. My being possibly close to it, and now I understand somehow some things may fit in the poem and stuff with that location. I was there with less comprehension of why I was there. I just found that centerfold of the book had to be a big clue. And I'm pretty much right. I think I haven't looked at the book in ages, but I'm pretty much right. That's where Fenn was in front. Fenn's father was in front of Marvin. Fenn was Marvin, right? In front of Fenn Rock, right? And someone wrote me and said, where he's holding up the trout in front of the Fenn Rock, said that's Homer Brown. because he's holding the trout. I thought, the Fenn rock is home of brown. It's kind of clever. I don't know. Well, I'll talk about that another day. What I want to talk about today, though, that I find very interesting is the McCracken trial / legal ending of the Fenn Chase. I, as you know, am far less interested in the actual location of the find. I mean, I'm interested. I'd like to see it, know that it is actually there. Again, not saying Rudy didn't find it, but I don't know. You know, we're not getting the information from Jack or anyone like that. So the fact that you take a picture and kind of superimpose it on the same picture, is that what happened? No, I'm not saying that's actually what happened. I don't know. I just saw it long enough to see him kind of take it. It's like exactly the same when he puts it together. There you go. It matches. Okay, well, it matches. Yeah, sure. It's the same log. Except one had a crack and one didn't or something. That introduces that. See, it's not just perfect. There's a little doubt, but sure is believable, right? And then I go, oh, now it's getting really, I don't know. Anyway, so let's talk. I'm more interested in the fact, and I'm very excited about the fact that next month is going to be the trial where McCracken supposedly deposes Stoof, which a lot of people are saying it'll just be he'll just plead the fifth. Can you do that in this kind of a trial? Plead the fifth? I mean, how does that work? Plead the fifth? I don't want to incriminate myself. I don't even know how that would work. I'm not a lawyer. Anyway, it's going to be very interesting next month to see what happens with the outcome of this trial. So McCracken, to his credit, has, just like Barb Anderson, kind of opened a door, pushed open a window a little bit to give us a little bit of insight into what's going on with this. Now, speaking of Barb Anderson wrote me, I'm going to start off with this, officially start my video now. She wrote and she said, getting old is so fun. She wrote and she said, would you let your audience know I never filed a lawsuit against you? I love that. My audience. I have an audience. Do you know I haven't done a video in months and I actually picked up some subscribers. I think that must be because of the whole 9 Mile Hole thing in my video about did I find, being at 9 Mile Hole. Would you let your audience know I never filed a lawsuit against you? Greg's channel made it up last night. So I guess the brutal truth people said that Barb is suing me. Barb has, to my knowledge, never sued me. So I'm not being sued by Barb Anderson. All right, so let's get into it. I printed off a very bunch of stuff, so I must have a purpose to this. Oh, that's right. I highlighted where it was. So I'm talking about the end of the chase. Now, the end of the chase. What am I talking about? Oh, yeah. I've just remembered my big point that I want to make about the end of the chase. And it's a huge, huge red flag that I know people have picked up on, but for some reason, see, this is what kills me about this whole thing. Everybody gets hung up on these things. I swear to God, whenever something shows up that to me leads to the nefarious legal shenanigans, background stuff with Jack and the Fenn estate, etc., whenever things like that show up, it always seems to me like something else captures the headlines for the Fenn community. Like Rudy finding the supposed spot that, because they traced the spot to things that shown up in the trial, pictures that Jack had to show of where he found it. So this guy Rudy supposedly finds it, and then he's on K-Pro and Mike, and everyone's talking about, look, Rudy found the location where the chest was buried and all that, because we got the pictures, and he found the location that matched the pictures in the log. And I'm going, that's not really important. What's important is how the end of the chase was fraudulent. Maybe fraudulent's a wrong word. It was manipulated. It was manipulated. I say maybe fraudulent isn't the right word because Fenn didn't break any laws as far as I'm concerned the way the chase ended, but he never told us the truth about the way the chase ended. So it was an unethical ending, and I think that it's going to all come out in the end, definitely. And as far as someone had a really good idea in one of the Reddit comments that I'm going to read, but I think it's very interesting. I'm gazing out through the blinds of my window. It's a very sunny, nice day, and I'm losing my train of thought. I'm looking out the window like Forrest used to do when he was in school. I'm just kind of going, wow, it's really nice outside today. Why am I in this dark room doing this? Anyway, well, let's get into it. So Jack Stoof, on September 23rd, 2020, wrote an article. He talked about a remembrance of Forrest Fenn. Talks all about Forrest Fenn. I'm going through all this stuff that I printed up. He was a benefactor and donated. Oh, the cancer thing. Yeah, how's that cancer fund working out? How's that cancer fund working out? People that I know from the chase, my searcher friends that text me and stuff, they're still asking, what happened to that cancer money from the Too Far to Walk? I think it was. Is that still being parceled out? I knew someone that contacted me that was involved with that and tried to get money from the cancer fund and kept at it for her niece and had to keep at it with Zoe to the point where Zoe just sent her a personal check to cover some thousands of dollars. Well, what's your point, Eric? Well, I mean, you would think if you had a cancer fund set up to disperse the earnings of a book, 10% of the book sales go to this cancer fund, you would think it would be an official charity / cancer fund that you would get a check that said, from the Forrest Fenn Estate Cancer Fund, whatever check. And instead, she kind of had to push it and then ended up with just a personal check for, I want to say about $7,000 that she was grateful to get, but as she said to me personally, kind of seemed like she was just kind of writing her a check just to get me to quit bothering her about giving me some money for this person or her family that needed help. It's kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, was there a cancer fund or not? See, these are the kind of things, and people they don't bother me. They ask me, do you know anything about the cancer fund? I go, nope. I mean, has it been established? Okay, remember this. In 2020, this is what Jack said. Remember this. This is important. Alas, he writes, Forrest was a gifted adventurer and writer, and the finder was a grateful admirer who sold his famous treasure. Their friendship lasted only 3 months, but they were very influential months. You will see. This is Jack, the finder, talking about himself in the third person. Alas, now he's talking about himself in the first person. Oh, I see. According to page 92, Forrest and Eric Sloan are busy now working to finish the book they began together years ago, so he won't notice if I steal and rework that passage. Oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, Jack says in 2020, alas, I'm a millennial, and I have student loans to pay off, so it wouldn't be prudent to continue to own the Fenn treasure. At the end of the day, for all our similarities, Forrest and I couldn't be less alike when it comes to collecting. Jack does not consider himself a collector. Forrest, of course, probably had OCD. I mean, if you look at his collections, it's just near hoarder level. Some issues there mentally. Yeah, Forrest had a final wish for where he thought the treasure should end up. The first step for me will be to try to make that happen. Really? Is that what Jack's doing? People now say that the treasure is in a vault or it's at Heritage Auction. It's at Heritage Auction House, either being held or being auctioned. The people I know who contact me have said they've contacted Heritage Auction. I say that because Dan Barbarese recently said that he knew it was at Heritage. Well, people I know have contacted, like Steve Klein and someone else, and they've contacted Heritage, and the Heritage says they have no idea, they don't have it. So I don't know. Again, why is something like retrieving a treasure hunt treasure so confusing as misleading? I don't understand that. But keep in mind what I said. Jack in 2020 said, I'm a millennial. In September of 2020, going on to 2021, said, I'm a millennial, so it's not prudent for me to continue to own the Fenn treasure. I have student loans to pay off. In other words, Jack is in financial straits in September of 2020. Just remember that. All right, what else we got in here? Blah, 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 blah. I can feel Belle. She's in the hallway trying to get me to come open the front door. I can feel it. I only have it closed because of the air conditioning. Oh, the relevance of the double omegas will go to the grave with the man who wrote the poem. I think I understand what the double omegas mean. But it would kind of infer that Forrest had an idea very, very early on what he was going to do. I don't know how that works out. I'll leave that alone for now. Okay, where are we at? Okay, I want to go on to the second video, even though it's a little early, because I could get 20 minutes out of this, but who cares? Maybe I'll put the video parts together instead of dividing them up into parts. Some people like it when I do, and some people don't. Should I care what people think? All right, I'm going to go ahead to part 2, because I'm going to go open the front door in case Belle's sitting there, staring at the wood like she can will the door to open up. What are you thinking? Yeah. Okay. What the fuck? This thing's recording? Holy shit. Well, that was dumb. Nothing better than highlighting things with a really worn out highlighter that I can barely even see. Oh, this is about, yeah, boy, I had people bugging me about this. How do I feel about Sarah Davis? Sarah Davis is the chief ranger for Yellowstone. I guess she no longer is, but she was the one that had a Zoom call supposedly with Forrest and Jack, and they told her where the location was. And so people speculate, duh, that it was probably in Yellowstone because she's the chief ranger of Yellowstone. Yeah, I mean, when you start fighting the obvious because you have an ideology, or maybe because someone else came up with the idea, or, in other words, someone else came up with the theory, and so you're going to have the opposite theory. If Forrest Fenn and Jack decided to set up an interview with the chief ranger of Yellowstone to discuss the location, I would think that would be where the treasure was buried, hidden. I mean, I don't really care that Mike and K-Pro believe that, or other people don't believe that. We get into these little skirmishes over things. I just think it's kind of obvious. Someone contacted me, said, well, if it was true that it was in Yellowstone, they would have contacted the director, not the chief ranger. That's okay, maybe they did. Maybe they went to the director, and the director said, let the chief ranger handle it. After all, the chief ranger is going to have to go out in the woods and see where the spot is. Maybe the director's not into that kind of stuff. Maybe he's kind of above it all. I mean, that's kind of what real life's right? I want to see the Grand Poobah. No, you can see the assistant Grand Poobah. Okay, I'll go see the assistant Grand Poobah. It's not a big deal. It was an official from Yellowstone. Why would it be an official from Yellowstone? Well, because she has jurisdiction over other, because she's a chief and she's not a this, she can have jurisdiction over other areas that aren't Yellowstone. Come on. As someone wrote, they wrote, come on. That's what someone wrote in an article. I'll probably read it. They kind of said all of that, and then they said, so who would think it wasn't in Yellowstone? Come on. Yeah, I think it's probably in Yellowstone. Was in Yellowstone. All those problems I know. Forrest said there could be big problems. He said that. He was very honest about it. He said there could be big problems, and, we'll deal with it, and there's a way out of things, and you can always figure out a solution, and blah, blah, blah. He made it very clear. I'm not going to go dig him up, but I remember him specifically saying, yeah, it could be a stinky, but we're going to clear it up somehow, and things can be resolved. And then people are like, well, how'd they get away with, what are they just going to report it to the Yellowstone and not get fines or anything? Actually, this was something that was brought up by Steve, and he made a good point. I said, well, maybe they did get fined. He goes, well, there's no record of it. Okay, see again, I don't know. I mean, if people are checking into it and can prove to me that I agree. If they hit it in Yellowstone and reported it to the park, I don't know the legal technicalities of how all that works out when you leave a treasure in a park and you make a treasure hunt out of it and someone finds it, and then I guess you gift it to the person rather than them claiming it. And that's a whole nother thing of how legalistic the entire Jack ending was. It was incredibly legalistic. As someone said, it was as if a team of lawyers helped him figure out how to end it when he contacted Fenn and the language he used. My thing, again, as I've said before, is I find the legal ending of this the fascinating thing. I truly believe if I ever am convinced of where the treasure was, I'll go look at it if I ever do. And I understand the concept of not making it some sort of a public place where people come and trample down everything and ruin it. But if somehow I was able to go look at it, I'm sure it would be very similar to what Fenn said when he said, for the average person, they may very well not see anything special about it. It was special for me, Fenn, he said. So, you go in the woods and you find a spot like they're showing on the shows, and it's just some logs, and it's just not that special looking. So I think that's what my reaction would be too. Like looking at the pictures that were from, obviously, oh, and I have a theory. Well, let's keep going. So the federal government got involved in the case and they filed a motion to intervene in the lawsuit with the somewhat vague reasoning the treasure was hidden on federally owned land managed by the Department of the Interior and that revealing the precise spot to the public could be problematic. As evidence for that, they provided an enlightening affidavit wherein the Chief Ranger of Yellowstone National Park, Sarah Davis, testified to having been told the location by Fenn and Stoof in August of 2020, and that a subsequent examination of the area found that it was not conducive to becoming a veritable tourist attraction. Her testimony in the government's description of the spot would appear to confirm long-standing suspicions that it was hidden in Yellowstone. Yeah, I mean, I'm not overthinking this one. I just think it was there. It was Fenn's magical place that he grew up. He talked constantly of, I mean, what other place, what other physical location did Forrest Fenn ever talk about with reverence besides Yellowstone? I mean, he referred to it as magical. He loved it. He spent summers there for years on end. He was a guide there. He made money there. He loved being there. He fished there. His great passion, fishing. It's Yellowstone. I really believe that. I just think to fight that is just to fight common sense. That conclusion is strengthened by an email unearthed by McCracken's lawsuit, wherein Stoof contacted Fenn upon his discovery of the treasure and used carefully crafted language to suggest that the art dealer would give him the riches by virtue of his having found him. This is believed to be a clever loophole to maneuver beyond laws surrounding property found in national parks, and that instructions regarding the verbiage may have been included in the chest alongside the riches, which some of us have thought could be true for a long time. There was something in that chest that told you how to handle ending the chase when you found it, how to claim the chest. Fortunately for frustrated treasure hunters, the judge overseeing McCracken's case refused the government motion, and so he will soon be allowed to depose Stoof, which may provide answers to the lingering questions that still surround the modern mystery of Fenn's treasure. That's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, we're getting there. Jack Stoof said that Jack Stoof, a 32-year-old medical student at the time, found the treasure in 2020. He revealed his identity to Outside in December of that year, Outside magazine, just before being added as a defendant to one of the lawsuits. Quote, "My texts and emails were hacked," unquote, which forced his hand. I thought Barb Anderson's lawsuit forced his hand, and even then, my advisor, advisor is more of a financial person, but they have some legal background, and he had said there was no, and I think he knows people that are legal. Not experts, but they know the law. And, nobody thought that what Barb had done with Jack forced him to reveal his name and identity. Because Jack could have gone to a judge and said, look what's happened to all of the Forrest Fenn family. They've had their property invaded. They've had death threats. They've had all these things. Can we please keep my name out of this? And a number of people have told me they think the judge would have normally, commonsensically said, well, of course, we don't want you to get, have some wacko after you. And so Jack didn't really but Jack never pursued that. He didn't try to get his name. He just went ahead and said, my name's Jack Stoof. I've been outed because I'm in a lawsuit and I had to get my name. And were his emails and his text hacked? Was that ever proven? Oh, Jack. So anyway, oh, I like what someone said. This is, what am I reading now? This is from Revealed. Forrest Fenn's treasure was hidden in this national park. I think this is Outside Magazine. Ooh. McCracken lawsuit made public photos of the chest in situ, still embedded in the ground, as well as some private emails between Stoof and Fenn that occurred immediately after the treasure was found. And Stoof's first email reads like it was written by a committee of lawyers. This is what, picture this. I know a lot of you know this, but I'm just repeating it. So Jack Stoof goes and finds the treasure after 25 trips, and he always knew where it was. He said, but when he got to the smaller location, the small location within the big location that Fenn talked, then he got confused. He couldn't quite find it, and so he spent 25 times he went in looking for it. I guess that's the best way to. I'm pretty sure my number's correct on that. Like I said, I haven't gone back and brushed up on this stuff, but this is what he wrote. And then he goes in and he finds it. He leaves it there. This is so peculiar. Everyone I have talked to, and I've talked to many people on this subject who have texted me, emailed me, just one-off things where they just write me and go, Eric, that's ridiculous. Nobody would ever do that in a million years. Even people I didn't converse with, a lot of people said the concept of finding that treasure and leaving it there for a day does not pass the sniff test. And so, but that's what he did. And then he contacts Forrest Fenn. He says, I'm aware that over the years you have intimated that you may like to give these items to the person who found it, Stoof wrote. If that is the case with me, why wouldn't it be? You found it. It's not like a popularity contest. No, I don't think so, Jack. Forrest all said, whoever finds it, it's theirs. But he says, if that is the case with me, I would be happy to receive them. But I think it would be prudent that I first return your treasure to you so you can fully verify that it belongs to you. Wow, this is legal. This is legal thinking. At that time, you can make your decision on whether to keep it all, give it to me, subtract or add items, or whatever else you may decide. This is not your average treasure hunter, folks. This is someone who has definitely gotten advice on how to do this. Stoof emailed Fenn on June 5th, apparently leaving the chest in place overnight. He said he retrieved it on June 6th, which raises some questions. Did Stoof figure out all the precise language on his own that day? Exactly. Were there instructions in the chest about how to proceed? The latter seems more likely. I agree. Fenn said he spent $5,000 on a lawyer figuring out the potential finder's legal situation before he placed the chest, and he always said that there was a kind of fail-safe inside, that he'd know where it was found. Now, folks, this is it, and this is the crux of this video. Just one second. These are the things that I see that make me wake up while other people are worrying about whether Rudy actually found the log that was in the photos that Jack Stoof gave to the court. And oh yeah, here it is. I found it. I found the place, and here's the photo to prove it. Which to me again looks kind of like the photo superimposed on the photo. I don't know. I could be very wrong about that. For all I know, Rudy did actually find it. And I don't know. There's just something about that story. I just have a problem with the way these stories keep popping up. And I've said before, I have no problem with K-Pro and Mike and all these kind of people. that kind of keep stirring up videos to get people to watch. And I understand that. And I said a long time ago, as far as I'm concerned, Mike and K-Pro kind of remind me of Barnum and Bailey. I mean, there's one born every second. You can keep making videos that people are interested in watching, more power to you. I'm just different in that I'm only interested in the legal ending of this chase, because I truly believe in the end we were manipulated. And we know that Sexton died. We know that before Sexton, the searcher, died, that Fenn had already alerted Dale Neitzel, that he was interested in ending the chase. And he kind of said, what do you think? And Dale kind of, like most of us, like me, I think the only time I ever emailed Fenn in my life, which I got no response, I asked him not to end the chase. It was after someone had died, not Sexton. Sexton? But he, what was my point? Before the final searcher died, Fenn had alerted Dale that he was thinking of ending the chase, and then after the final searcher died, Fenn alerts Dale that kind of something to the effect of, yes, I think that would be a good way to go to end the chase. It was written in such a way that it kind of gave a guideline without necessarily saying the chase is over now, until the point where Jack found the chest. It seemed very contrived. To a lot of people, it seems contrived. The whole timeline of events at the end seems very contrived. So, this is the part that seems most contrived of all and is hard to refute. So, Jack, when he finds the treasure in June of 2020, or June 5th of 2020, and he's been going there over and over, and he finally finds it, and he leaves it overnight, and then he contacts Fenn, and he writes this fairly legalese email about how to pull this off. And of course, as people have said, perhaps rightfully, that maybe this was instructions that were left in the chest, and he's just kind of following through with the concept of Fenn receiving back the chest, which after all he owns, it's his, and then he gifts it to Jack, and that way gets out of the problem with it being found in Yellowstone. Is that what happened? Is that a loophole that worked for the park system? Did the park system say, oh, you owned the chest that was left on the park property, someone that you now know, Jack, found it, and he returned it to you and said, oh, look, here's the chest. And you say, okay, thank you for bringing me the chest. Right? You give it back to Forrest Fenn. You don't keep it. Legally, you don't keep it. You don't keep the chest that you found in Yellowstone and go off and say, I found the treasure chest, and the Yellowstone steps in and says, hey, wait a minute, buddy, you can't do that. No, you give it back to Fenn. I mean, it's very simple, but it could have worked as far as the lawyers were concerned. Maybe, law can sometimes be a little gray in there between the black and white. Maybe they all just looked at it and said, it's not worth it's not worth a lawsuit. It's not worth the Yellowstone going after it. The guy gave it back to Fenn, and then Fenn turned around and bequeathed it to Jack after the fact. So we're kind of stepping out of it because, Fenn decided to give it to the person who found it. I think that's what has happened. And I think that's why Yellowstone was involved, because Yellowstone was where it was found, and they were kind of saying, this is where it was found. We have all these people that want to know where it was found, and we're letting you know, and the court, Yellowstone said, we do not want this location to be made public, because we don't want people coming in here tromping all over the area in Yellowstone. I think it's just very simple. I don't think it's overly complicated. The one thing that bothers me, and it goes back to this concept I've had forever, and other people have too, that this thing was constructed, the end was manipulated, is this. But then, this is this article again. Yeah, this is Outside Magazine. So, and I'll probably put this up for you to look at. But then, the text. But then, it also seems like Stoof knew he was going to find the treasure long before he did. This, folks, is the red flag. If you want to worry about where was the treasure and I want to go look at it and look at some bare ground with some trees and a log or two and go, this is where it was, because I can almost guarantee you it's nobody has said it's some outstanding location that you just go, oh my God, look at the waterfall. I mean, it's not Niagara Falls, okay? It's not even Fairy Falls. It's not anything. It's apparently just a very, just a very plain landscape that Forrest Fenn found very, very soothing, comforting, whatever you want to say, for his own personal reasons. And he said that more than once. You may not find it to be that big a deal when you see it, but for me it was a big deal, Forrest Fenn said. So here we go. It seems Stoof knew he was going to find the treasure long before he did. Maybe he had time to prepare. According to a document that recently turned up on a treasure hunting forum, Stoof applied for tax status and apparently moved to Puerto Rico, where there is almost no capital gains tax, in September 2019. 9 months before he found the treasure in June of 2020. Yeah, okay. 9 months before, in 2019. My advisor had written me about this before. He said, Eric, there's a really big deal going on here because Jack Stoof is apparently living in Puerto Rico. And he said Puerto Rico has like a 20-year tax abatement. I think that's what he made a point of saying, not a deferment, an abatement. Basically, for 20 years, you don't pay any tax. So if you come into some huge amount of money during that period, you don't pay any tax. He said, I, as an advisor, have told people to relocate to Puerto Rico because of the tax situation. And Puerto Rico has a class of people who are very, very wealthy and well-to-do and really enjoy that tax abatement for 20 years with their riches. How did Jack know that? Are you telling me that Jack, who said he figured out the location, he first became aware, let's see, in 2018, I think he said he figured it out with like a year, right? I could be messing this up. I hope I'm not. But it was something like he became aware of it in the beginning of 2018, and by the end of 2018, he'd figured it out where it was, and he was really sure of himself. And then he went out and he made 25 trips to look for it, and he was stumped by no pun intended, he was stumped by things like a fake blaze, which I have a theory about. A fake blaze. He came upon a fake blaze. People have said, how do you know something is a fake blaze if you don't even know what the blaze is? Yeah. I suppose it could have the Running Man on it or something. I don't know. That's very odd, though, that he said someone had set up a fake blaze within, I think, 1,000 feet of the chest itself that he found later. Folks, Jack Stoof, 9 months before he found the treasure, had already gotten residency in Puerto Rico. I mean, does someone, remember I asked you to remember this? He was a poor guy that needed to pay off student loans. That's his story. And he's sticking to it, I'm sure, to this day. So Jack Stoof, when he's looking for this treasure, needs to pay off his student loans, needs to get rid of the treasure because he's not really a collector. He just wants to get rid of it because he's got to pay off those student loans. And yet, at the same time, 9 months before he finds it, he's applying for residency in Puerto Rico? I mean, that is... Okay, all I can say is that is an assurance of your find that you haven't found, supposedly. That's a confident person. I don't think that just doesn't pass the sniff test for me. I'm sorry. That to me sounds... If someone had come to me when I was looking, and I made many trips to the Rockies looking, and I often thought I knew what I was doing, but of course I didn't in the end. But the point I'm trying to make is, if someone had said to me, now Eric, before you go this time, I really think you figured it out. So I think you need to take up residency in Puerto Rico, because this certainly is right? And you do that because you're just so sure you know where it's going to be, and then you find it? Not immediately. You don't go out and find it the next month and go, yep, see, here it is. I just got the residency. I found it. Here it is. I'm going to give it to Fenn. He's going to give it back to me. So we get out of the Yellowstone loophole, and now it's mine. Now I live in Puerto Rico. No, 9 months later, he finds the chest after... What does this say? Applied for tax status and apparently moved to Puerto Rico. The student, the guy who owes student loans moves to Puerto Rico, where there is almost no capital gains tax. He does that 9 months before he found the treasure. The poor Jack Stoof, who needs to pay off his student loans and is just going to sell that treasure immediately because he needs to pay off his student loans. Since he's not going to be a medical doctor anymore, even though he went to school, fine, that happens all the time. He moved to Puerto Rico knowing that 9 months in the future he was going to find that chest. Boy, that is one confident guy. No, I don't believe that. I think this is the huge red flag. And again, it's just me. These are the things that make my ears perk up. Not, someone found they think they found the same location that matches the picture in the trial. So this is the log that the log was in, and I've got a picture of the log. So yeah, the treasure was right here, and it's just a bunch of dirt and grass and trees. Who gives a shit? Doesn't make sense. This thing was manipulated in the end. Jack Stoof, this whole thing was a plan. There's no other way to think about it. That is such a red flag that he applied for status to be in Puerto Rico and got his residency and moved there before he even... What is he using for money? This guy who is supposedly needs to find the treasure chest just to pay off loans. Something doesn't smell right. It's wrong. I don't care what anybody says. Okay, so this guy, the author, says, I put all this to tax attorney Larry Brandt, who I consulted with back when the treasure was first found. You know what Larry Brandt said? It looks like someone is really thinking this through, he said. Yeah, they thought it through. It's all manipulated. It's contrived. Folks, I firmly believe the treasure was put out there for some amount of time. I firmly believe that the deaths of these searchers increasingly bothered Fenn both emotionally and legally. I think he had his lawyers or lawyer coming to him saying at some point, this is really getting bad. How many people are going to die? Now, I want to write something. I want to read something here that was really, this was really a brilliant observation by a guy on Reddit. And I'm going to leave it with this. I'm going to leave it with this if I can find it. Just a second. Okay, so this is what a guy said on Reddit. And I think this is a really good summation. I'll leave it at this. I mean, I don't know that this is what happened, but I thought this was very kind of an astute read on what could have happened. This is a guy named Lecky Stick. Lekistic. Lekistic. Lekistic? Whatever. He says, here's what I think could have happened. Forrest knew that the treasure chest had been located in 2019, long before Mike Sexton died. That's the searcher who was the last searcher to die. Long before Mike Sexton died on March 19th, 2020. March, April, May, June. The treasure was supposedly found in June, a few months after Mike Sexton died. Right? Yeah. Here's what I think could have happened. Forrest knew that the treasure chest had been located in 2019. Long before Mike Sexton died on March 19th, 2020, parenthesis, Mike died while hunting for the treasure chest in Dinosaur National Park, parenthesis. After Mike's death, Forrest could not just end it as he had planned to do. This obviously, this person thinks that they had planned on ending the chase. He would have been liable at this point. He wants to end the chest, right? He wants to end the chase and retrieve the chest. But then Mike Sexton dies. Mike Sexton throws a monkey wrench in things by his unfortunate death. So Forrest could not end it just as he had planned to do. He would have been liable for a wrongful death suit because he failed to notify everyone of the find in 2019. Keeping in mind that Jack Stoof applied for residency and tax status in Puerto Rico 9 months before it was found in June. So what would that be? January, February, March, April, May, June. That's 6. So October, November, December. So in October of 2019 is when Jack applied for residency and tax status in Puerto Rico, 2019. After Mike's death, Forrest had to have a finder. He couldn't just send Shiloh in to end it. He needed cover. That's actually where that ends. I think that cover was Jack. I think that some things just have to be left to be found out later. I don't have everything tied up in a bow to understand exactly what happened, but I think you can understand from the way I'm pulling this all together my kind of general thoughts about how this ended. A lot of smart people are out there with their different angles on how this happened. It's a complicated ending. You have searchers dying. You have Fenn wanting to end it. You maybe have Jack Stoof figured out pretty close to where it was, but he didn't quite figure it out. You then have Forrest in this bind because he realizes that a searcher has died. Oh, wait a minute. So the chest was retrieved. Well, yeah, so that would say Jack had retrieved the chest, and that's why he got the residential status in Puerto Rico. Yeah. The actual chest was retrieved in 2019 before Mike Sexton died. And Forrest Fenn realized that he had a possible wrongful death suit on his hands because the chest was no longer out there. I don't know. This is a little fuzzy for me. Excuse me for being a little fuzzy on this. I'm not sure exactly. You understand what I'm saying, though. The end is... So how would this work? So Jack finds the chest. Hi, everybody. This is Eric. It's the next day. I felt like after watching... after starting to edit yesterday's video, I thought I should pop in and say a couple of things. First of all, the timeline is pretty simple. Jack, from what we understand now, Jack applied for residency and or moved to Puerto Rico in September of 2019. That's pretty clear from a document that people said has been on the internet. Where's the document? I don't know. I don't have it. This is all conjecture. So, assuming that's true, in September of 2019, Jack applies for and moves to Puerto Rico, where they have a 20-year tax abatement. That's wow. That's like 10 months before the treasure is found. It's 6 months before Michael Sexton dies looking for the treasure. That timeline is pretty important. I mean, if in fact, you know, if Jack moved to Puerto Rico, the assumption on my part is, and it is an assumption, is that he moved there because he wanted to take advantage of the fact there's a 20-year abatement. For the 20 years of your, I guess the first 20 years you live in Puerto Rico, they do not tax you. It's not a deferment. They don't put off taxing you. They do not tax you. And that came to my attention before I was aware of the timeline, when my advisor texted or called me one day and he said, "Do you understand what's going on here? I've just found out," this was months ago, he said, "I just found out that Jack's living in Puerto Rico," and he had the condo address. I guess he did a background check on him, which you can do these days, of course. So Jack at least had a residency in Puerto Rico, and then this other information tells me he applied for it in September of 2019. That's interesting. Now, the rub of it is that we don't know if that chest was retrieved in 2019. We don't know it. But I would ask you this. Why would you... Well, let's just put it to this way, which I talked about in other places in this video. Just going on the assumption that you really have it figured out, you're going to go ahead and get residency, etc., before you even find it? That would, I mean, yeah, I guess you'd want to. Technically, wouldn't you? You would want to have the residency when you acquired the chest. But that makes me think then it has to be a plan. This whole thing has to have been planned. Because, oh, did I mention the ambient noise in the background? It's not my toilet running. You know, I used to leave my aquariums on when I would do my videos years ago, and people would all write me, "Your toilets are running." I didn't turn them off just because this is going to be a short addendum to my previous video, so I'll be off in a second. But you yourself, would you just buy a condominium in Puerto Rico because you have a pretty good hunch you know where the treasure is and you're going to find it? When you find it, you want to have that residency so you don't get taxed, thus clearing up the IRS problems we were all concerned about. Remember that? If you found the treasure, it would be considered income, and everybody knew that meant at the end of the, you know, we all become these experts in these little tiny ways with this treasure hunt. So we all found out that if you found the treasure and claimed it, that money would go into that year's earnings, and you would have to pay the IRS. But now, if he's in Puerto Rico, who knows? I guess he didn't have to pay it. Plus, it was gifted to him by Fenn. He returned the treasure to Fenn, and Fenn turns around and gifts it to him. But the timing is the important thing. So, if he's getting residency in Puerto Rico in 2019, September, I think that he has possession of that chest, or he comes into possession of that chest very soon afterwards, and he has to know he's going to possess that chest. I just do not believe Jack Stu just really figured out that he knew where the chest was, so he just went and bought a condo. You know, the guy who has to pay his medical bills, his student loans. It doesn't make sense, folks. It was planned. He knew he was going to have the chest, or he already had the chest. I'll assume he would get the chest afterwards, but again, that means it was planned. I just don't think he got residency being really convinced he knew where it was going to be, and then he would just go find it. It seems all very planned. That's all I had to say. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the video. And there's something really funny going on with this chase and this ending. Really strange ending. Everybody have a good day. Belle, what? Hey, where are you? You want to say hi to the folks? She doesn't want to get up. You want to come up? You don't? You do? You coming up? You can do it. Come on up here, honey. Yeah. Here's Belle. Here's Belle. Be a star for a second. Oh, such a good little girl. She really is. She's got something on her nose. All right, folks. Have a good one. Bye. Oh. Forrest Fenn dies in, what, September? After June, July, August, September. Forrest Fenn dies in, what, September, August, September? Supposedly dies. He's got a father who committed suicide. Forrest Fenn himself talked about he would commit suicide if he found it necessary at any point in his life. Not averse to the idea. No religious things that would pop up to stop him. Telling you folks, this is a big deal ending. This is a real stumper. This is fascinating. I cannot wait to see what happens next month with the trial going forward, and McCracken, I guess, who is his own lawyer. I hate it when people do that, because I think it's a fool. What do they say? A lawyer has a fool for a person who defends himself. A person who's his own lawyer has a person who is his own lawyer has a fool for a client. That's what I'm trying to say. It's generally, thought that it's not a good idea to be your own lawyer. And people will say, and I know I mentioned earlier, if he wants to go in and he wants to depose Jack, can Jack just say no? Can you do that? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Okay, folks, that is all I've got for you. I left it kind of muddled there, but that's because it is muddled. It is muddled. The whole thing's muddled, but it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Does the Sexton family have a lawsuit in the offing if this thing goes south for the Fenn estate and it turns out this whole thing was contrived and the ending, or at least the retrieval, was set in motion before Mike Sexton died? That would imply the treasure had been pulled in 2019 before Mike Sexton died. I don't know. Everybody have a great day. This is Memorial Day. It's the day that we memorialize the dead, not eulogize the veterans. That's Veterans Day. I put out a video on my Facebook page by Allison Chains, and I love this video. And it's about this Vietnam veteran. I hope people didn't misunderstand it. It's very dark, but it's a great video talking about basically showing what it was like being over there and the whole concept of dying in battle and, you know, the horrors of battle. It's just horrific. All right, everybody. Everyone have a great day, and we'll talk to you later. I am going to do some more videos. I got some more ideas. We'll talk about moving out to the coast. That's still an ongoing project that has been put on delay for some personal reasons, but it's going to happen, and I'm going to be out there, a very small area of the coast north of Charleston up the coast that is just full of treasure wrecks. And I want to live near there, and I want to go out and I want to hit the beaches. I can't think of a better way to spend this time in my life than to be out on beaches, metal detecting in these fairly remote areas. Some of them you can only get to with a boat, looking for treasure. That's a whole nother video series. It's going to be fascinating. Anyway, I mean, I can say that because it really is fascinating. If I find it fascinating, usually people, when I do these videos, at least I have a group of people who really seem to have the same interest. Okay, folks, I'm rambling. See you later. Have a good day.